right, y'all. Y'all know what time it is. Team Black in the building. What's going on, everyone? We are here again for our third week into our after show for the latest episode of House of the Dragon. This episode, as far as I can tell, does not have a title quite yet. Similar to last week, it took a little bit before it was revealed what the title was. So, like we did last week, is there any guesses or theories of what you all think this would be called tonight? Because there was a lot of stuff that went down, some creepy stuff going on in Harrenhal. We had a Mission Impossible type of scene with Rhaenyra talking to Alicent, and a lot of pieces to the puzzle being set tonight that we will be breaking down. I'm excited to be here with you all. And first and foremost, shout out to everyone that joined the watch party that we had watching this week's episode. Appreciate y'all. For those that missed out, no worries. You can watch the replay, join in on all the fun live reactions to my first time watching episode. We have a lot of fun doing that, and definitely checked it out in the description of this video. But we are here to talk about it. Full spoilers. If you guys couldn't tell, we're going to be breaking it down in this episode breakdown after show, which, by the way, let me just double check to see if they've given this episode a title yet, because like I said last week, it took quite a while to the end of the stream before we actually knew what the name of it was, and lo and behold, no title quite yet. Let me check one more site before we proceed. I just want to make sure that there isn't a title quite yet, but like I said, if there isn't a title and there isn't one on IMDb quite yet, or on HBO or on Google, what would you at home name tonight's episode? As I ask you that, I'm thinking to myself, what would I name the episode? The Burning Mill, according to Wikipedia, is the name of the episode, which goes into the Brackens in the Blackwoods, with everything with them fighting in the mill in the background burning. That's an interesting title, and we'll get into if that is indeed the name of the episode. I can see how that plays into what we saw. Bayla should have called Zia giving her title tonight's episode. I love it. Zia. I love tonight's episode. Skylar saying they reveal the title. Yeah, I think maybe because spoilers, maybe Tyler, but like I don't know why it doesn't have any context. If you know what the title is, like something like this, the burning of the mills, like what would that mean? Unless you're a book reader, like, oh, we're gonna see the Brackens in the Blackwoods, then maybe that would give away a little insight of what to anticipate, but it doesn't really make or break any anticipation or theories from my end, because I haven't read the books. But yeah, according to Wikipedia, it's called The Burning of the Mills. So interesting title nonetheless, and very interesting episode. As we do every week, we'll break it all down. Again, for those that are tuning in, appreciate you. Again, you can watch the replay of the watch party. We had a good time, but we are here right now to break down the episode. So what I did last week, and let me know if you guys that are watching live prefer me to do this moving forward, is if you're here join the live, you get my raw, honest opinions, live, fresh, off the top of the dome type of conversations, which can sometimes lead to me thinking of where I want to take the conversation, what have you. But then what I did last week is I edited down our live discussion to make it like an actual breakdown with a little bit more of a, easier watch for you guys, and just get straight to my thoughts and obviously enjoy your time while you're watching live. But if you were not able to join us live, I still share my thoughts. So with all that being said, I'm going to do like a quick little intro for the cutout of the breakdown. And then, of course, I'll interact with you all as we do so. So with that being said, welcome everyone to tonight's after show. We will be breaking down the third episode as I'm recording this. The name of the episode is The Burning Mills, which alludes to the unspoken beef between the Brackens and the Blackwoods, which we'll talk about. But we'll also get into the discussion about a very haunting, creepy, weird, maybe the creepiest. I don't want to say the creepiest, because there's some creepy stuff with the White Walkers in Game of Thrones. But as far as House of Dragons concerned, the Harrenhal Daemon ghosts go bumping in the night scene, and we'll talk about the cameo that got me so excited of a particular character that made an appearance tonight. So a creepy episode, a Mission Impossible, almost suicide. I'm very curious of how Rhaenyra's going to get out of the situation, but Rhaenyra talking to Alicent in this episode, face to face, not on cell phone, not via Raven, an actual person to person, heart to heart, mother to mother, ex best friend to best friend conversation. A lot went down tonight, and we will be breaking it down. So before we get into it, man, let me know your thoughts on the episode in the comments, and as well as if you're watching this breakdown, give me a score. Let me know what you all thought of it, and of course, share your thoughts and theories and predictions, what you all hope to see in the weeks ahead. With that being said, let's just break it all down, go kind of scene by scene, and talk about some of the standout moments that I thought really kind of resonated and sets the stage for something hopefully good to come. So first and foremost, as I mentioned several times, I am a Game of Thrones fan via the television show. I've never read the books, House of Dragon, Fire and Ice, the Songs of Fire and Ice. I haven't read any of the books quite yet. I'm gonna probably sometimes when I'm, you know, 80 years old, maybe I'll read the books, but neither here nor there. I say all that to say this beef between the Brackens and the Blackwoods. Don't know anything about it, not familiar with it. Before we went live, I did a quick little Google search, and this is a beef that has no true origins apparently between these two. From what I was able to gather in like a 2 minute span before we went live, the Blackwoods, I looked at them a little bit more because they're Team Black. I'm a Black representative with Rhaenyra, so they seem to have some really interesting family ties to the the first men, which we know go all the way back to the creation of the White Walkers and a lot of supernatural, unexplained phenomenons within the Westeros, world of Game of Thrones. So very interesting family. And like I said, the family they're going against in this episode, again, their back and forth East Coast, West Coast beef is very fascinating. Obviously, we know the Brackens stand with Team Green, losers. And then we have the Blackwoods that stand with Team Black. So very interesting way to kick off the episode. And more interesting to me was kind of something that I mentioned in our watch party and something I'm really enjoying so far of this season. Love Game of Thrones. This isn't a knock on Game of Thrones, but a lot of Game of Thrones was from the perspective of a lot of our main characters, right? The Targaryens, the Stark family, the Lannisters, and all this stuff. But we really never explored any outsiders. And what I mean by outsiders is like the normal folk of town, the everyday person living in Westeros. Like we never really got their perspective of like what was going on during that time. And what I like about House of the Dragon so far is we take moments out of the episodes to kind of look at what people in the streets thinks about the beef going on between the families and all that stuff. And I like this opening because even someone like myself that isn't too familiar with both of these families and these houses, the sentiment stuck the landing for me as far as the understanding of the scene. And correct me if I'm wrong, for the book readers and those that watched tonight's episode, what I took away from that scene is and I'll bring up the screen here. Let me share the screen for this particular scene. It started off as kind of a friendly match of banter of like, I rep black, you rep green, don't speak badly or ill will Rhaenyra, don't speak badly of, Team Green. And well, lo and behold, what that turned out to be was just a flat out slaughter. Just a straight up, no holds barred, just what was it, 8-10 people talking, and next thing we know, they're all dead on top of whatever house they represent is now mostly taking losses on each side. So to me, again, not having context of any of these families in their houses and who they stand for and what they stand for besides the Team Green and Team Black, they're willing to die for that. And this beef, this inner turmoil between families, the civil war of Targaryens has bled over to other houses and their family losing generations and legacies on behalf of fighting for Team Black, Team Green. So, and we saw this last week too. Again, when we got a couple of smaller scenes with the rat catchers being hung in the streets, and it's a really very interesting perspective to kind of see what war can do, not just within the people that are starting the war, but what is the aftermath, or not the aftermath, but what is the effects of that around the Seven Kingdoms. And this is a perfect example of this in this opening scene. So it really kind of set the mood and set the tone and continues that idea that this war is more than just Targaryen versus Targaryen. This is going to shape the next century, right? So very dark and interesting way to open up the episode. I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, I like this young kid representing Team Black. He might have something to do later. No, no, he didn't. he died within the first couple minutes. So that's a very, very interesting way to open up this episode. And again, just kind of set the mood, set the tone, and let us know as an audience that this war is going to be very um, detrimental to anyone and everyone involved, no matter what side they lay on. Which, speaking of laying on, what side to lay on, this is another perfect example. We saw another family, more or less, brothers, blood, die for someone else's cause, for someone else's fight. I like that they did show us this burial between the two twins, and I know Team Green versus Team Black. I'm gonna, y'all know where I stand in that beef. I'm always Team Black no matter what. But this is still important to me that Rhaenyra has the decency and the the right state of mind to bury these brothers alive. I think Rhaenys says it to Rhaenyra in this scene, like the Ottos, the Hightowers would have never done this. They would have, never buried the traitor with the one that they consider to be a hero. So I love that it just gives us, kills kind of literally two birds in one stone, showing the burial of these two brothers that fought a war that they probably didn't want to be involved in, but with making oaths and standing to your side, you got to pledge the side and choose which war you want to be a part of and what battle you want to be a part of, and see what the result of that is losing their lives. But it also just shows, again, to me, putting my alliance aside, but it just shows how decent Rhaenyra is. And we see that throughout the continuation of this episode, is just the idea of her continuously trying her best to do what her father did for as many years as he ruled, which is not have much to any bloodshed. She's trying her best, y'all. Again, I know Team Green representatives are wouldn't agree with me, that they would disagree with some of her actions, but I think that she's really trying to not have any more bloodshed, and we see that later in this episode when she meets with Allison. But let me know what you all think so far. Again, that cold, not necessarily cold open, but that opening from that perspective of these two outside houses who already had beef before this war began, but just to see how that beef enticed this war of bloodshed. But also let me know what you all thought of that opening with Rhaenyra burying the brothers and Rhaenys telling her that this is something that would be considered treachery on the other side, and it just kind of, again, just speaks to her decency of the queen that is to be crowned, the ruler of the seven realms, in my humble opinion. Let me know what you all think of that in the comments below. But let me see what you guys are talking about in the comments, and we'll get back to the breakdown here in a second. We got more titles. Amen exposed. It's a shame that all the drama between, because of the men, Ray, Reg Dad, and Power. Yeah, it's crazy what power can do and how much it can affect others. Another dope episode. They honor the old god. Okay, thank you, Vic. I appreciate the insight on the Blackwoods. Hundreds of people died over words. Yep. And over alliances for people they've probably never even come into contact with. I love how the House Blackwoods about that. Yeah. Team Black, yeah. We ain't about those, he say, she say, throwing words at each other. We about that action. I like that. Very true. They lost. Yeah, as far as like the beef between those two families, for sure. Aegon is a frat boy and a moron. Yeah, he kind of, and I like how the show is handling Aegon so far. We get more of his vulnerability in episode 1, to seeing some of his quick decision making or terrible decision making with making Cole the hand of the king, and so I love that they've given us multiple layers per se to Aegon. But speaking of one of those decisions that Aegon has made very early on, let's go to everyone's, I think, and this is something I love about Game of Thrones, or say House of the Dragon so far. I don't think, regardless of what side you reside on, Team Black, Team Green, I think we can all collectively agree that whenever this individual pops up on screen, we all just collectively have a side. It's like, this guy. I'm referring to Sir Christy Cole, as he's been named in the comments of last week's video, and I agree with that. And like I said in my watch party, whenever this individual is on screen, I think it's only right that we play this video to share our collective opinion and how we feel about this individual and how we would describe the new head of the king.
Soft, overrated, pretty boy, a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up this individual on the screen, and we see a move later in this episode. But no, I think this moment here, as we see him walking down the corridors, as he has his new title and his new position of Canada the King. No one respects you, man. No one, not even your brothers in arms. They don't respect anything you do, what you say, how you move, how you look. You got a haircut in this episode, good for you. What was it for? Who knows? So I just love that even the characters within the show can't stand him. I mean, this I think this says it all. If you ask me, this just kind of speaks to us as a collective. Allison, the face says it all. Like, she's even tired of his BS. Like, by the way, I'm so glad we didn't see them banging this week. We needed a break from them hooking up, and I think they're growing apart, hopefully, because Allison, again, I'm a team black representative, but there's two and a half people I want to say respect, but people that I'm at least have a little bit of hard time just giving up on them. Allison's one, Helena's another one, and after last week's episode, Otto. Those are the only three people in Camp Green that I don't want to say respect, but I somewhat have a little bit of a hard time completely letting them go. So I love this face by Allison here, just looking at him. That's the face of the audience watching this show, and everyone in this show is just like, they hate this man. But either way, the scene that we have upon us is basically, honestly, just showing the dysfunctional nature of what it's like to not have a good hand of the king. And there's not necessarily chaos, but there's disorder within this conversation. We have some people saying we should do this, Aegon saying his, what he feels is right, and him potentially going on his own dragon and getting involved in this, which is a no, regardless of how you feel. You don't put your king in the middle of this war. We got Allison's here and her 2 cents, and again, the relationship between Allison and Cole, they kind of have a little bit of a disagreement, which has layers to it, because obviously we know they have an intimate relationship. So, but again, going back to just what I took away from the scene is just showing when you don't have, obviously you have to have a king that knows what to do, but when your king is short-sighted and rash and leads off of just pure adrenaline and just pure stupidity in certain decisions with Aegon, a young king, you need a smart hand of the king. And this scene just kind of just displayed that throughout, because there was not one voice, right, in that room. It was all these collective idiotic ideas, which as a team black representative, I love this continue the dumb comments and continue the dumb decision making. I'm here for it, because it'll be just easy for us to win as far as team black goes. But no, in all seriousness, I love how this scene just shows how much Otto is missed, and someone with a good head on their shoulders what they can do for that size. So I love the chaos they have going on and just the disagreements or what have you. But there was a small moment that it was, I don't know if you would call it a sentimental moment or a heart-to-heart moment, but there is a moment where Aegon is said that he wants to go out to war or what have you, get on his dragon. And I like, again, how this show is giving us multiple layers, and you really don't just have like a character just being one dimensional and just not interesting at all. But I love that we get to see more of Aemon and his kind of layers to him. Like, he tells his brother, who I'm sure he doesn't entirely respect, but he says, brother, the smart thing to do is to not get you involved, right? And later on we see how his brother pays him back for that in a very embarrassing manner. But I am not saying that I'm an Aemon fan, but I like how this show is presenting him as someone that has made mistakes, that has felt bad for what happened to Luke last season that has this really interesting, vulnerable relationship with the first woman he slept with, and how he has this loyalty to her and confides in her. There's a lot of interesting things that they're playing with Aemon. That's just like I said, not just a stereotypical quote unquote bad guy that's great at war, that has the biggest dragon in the realm. I like that they're giving us more to the character than just one thing, which makes it interesting, which makes it very interesting. But speaking of interesting, we talked about this alliance that's happening between two characters that are very fascinating to me, and that is Rhaenyra and the White Worm. We get a scene with them early in the episode that kind of addresses a question that I had last week, is like, how is Rhaenyra going to receive the conversation that's being had of the White Worm had her freedom. She could have went off and just lived her life, but no, she saw the twin coming up, and she wasn't able to stop anything. But Rhaenyra got the sentiment of like, you came back against your freedom to warn me of someone coming to kill me. And I just love this conversation here of how last week, the White Worm was just like, I just want to get out of all this mess. I lost everything I had, even after coming from the bottom to the top. And I'm just ready to get out of this mess between this war, between your family. I just want to get the furthest away from this possible. But there's a level of respect that the White Worm has for Rhaenyra for giving her freedom. And she says, Rhaenyra's like, I appreciate you. And as someone in White Worm's position says, she's like, well, how much do you appreciate me, right? And Rhaenyra, well, what do you think you deserve after making that decision to help me last week? Well, she wants to have a seat close to the queen to consult her and to give her guidance and give her tips and tricks, especially with her, again, going back to what she said last week, I don't have anything to offer. Let me retract that. I do know the Red Keep. I know the ins and outs, and I still have my spies in the near the Red Keep. So I like this, again, a very valuable asset to Team Black. Again, is there a bit of me that's a little bit nervous to fully trust her? Yes, as is every character. I don't think there's not one character, only character in the show that I feel as though Rhaenyra can completely trust. 98% trust is Rhaenys. I think she's the only, besides her kids as well, but as far as like adult wise, I think everyone's hard to trust if I'm Rhaenyra, but neither here nor there. There is a bit of me that does feel like we can't 100% fully buy into the White Worm and her kind of alliance, but I'm hopeful that she is someone we can trust, but we'll see. That's the beauty of great television. It's always those gray areas, those gray characters. You don't really know what their main objective is, but neither here nor there. We have this conversation being had about allowing her to be more closer to Rhaenyra, to give her advice, to put her hand into the bowl of this deceitfulness and the lies and the treachery going on. So she's going to be useful in that matter. Again, not being a book reader, but there was a comment made about Lenore's dragon, who's grown restless. He hasn't had a rider in many, many years. And the White Worm says, she's lonely, or he or she, the dragon, gender, I can't remember right now, but the dragon's lonely. It could have just been said, but I'm thinking to myself, is that her, kind of putting her name in the hat, that if the dragon should have her, that she can be a writer? I don't know. The White Worm getting her own dragon, again, not being a book writer or book reader, that's an interesting prospect. That's especially, again, knowing how she came from the bottom to the top, she lost everything, and then to her to get this rise to now make an alliance with Rhaenyra, and then to her to get a dragon as well. That's a big comeback story if I've ever seen one. Again, I don't know if that's going to happen, but I thought that was an interesting line of dialogue to allude to her addressing the fact that there is a dragon that is not without a rider, and maybe the White Worm could be that rider. I don't know. We'll see. But let me see what you guys are talking about in the comments before we move on to our next bit of juiciness going on in tonight's episode, again being titled Burning of the Meal. Hold on, let me just set the scene for the next one before we move forward. All right, let me see what y'all talking about here. And by the way, we got 108 people watching across YouTube, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter. I appreciate y'all tuning in. It is Sunday, the last day of June, almost 10 o'clock at night. I mean, y'all could be watching The Bear. Y'all can be watching, this episode again. You could be watching anything and everything you love, but you're here with me, spending time with me. And I appreciate y'all, man. So if you're having a good time, if you're enjoying the conversation, thumbs up. Consider sharing this video to anyone and everyone you know that loves talking about the show late at night. And continue to leave your thoughts in the comments. I'll try to get to them as often as I can. And consider subscribing if you haven't already. If this is your first time here, we got a lot of good stuff on the channel. So check me out. Stick around and check it out. All right, let me see. Let me get back to these comments and see what y'all are talking about. Let's see. The death of the twins is the foreshadowing what's to come. Yeah, a lot of death for sure. Yeah. As far as Aemon and Aegon, the difference between the two. I think Aegon knows Cole is not the brain. He picked Cole. Loyalty, one question. That's a good point, Silver. Yeah, because he definitely doesn't have the brains. Good point. Good point. Cole, yeah, man. Cole is a trip, man. Perfect video for y'all like that. Yeah, I got a kick out of that. I saw that video. That video will be making a cameo a little bit later when we talk about another Cole scene in the breakdown. That missed. That's a bold word, voice, but I wouldn't say missed. I would say his presence was felt. His lack of presence was felt. And number one, as far as like just the actor, I think putting the green versus black aside, just from an acting, his presence and what he brings to the show, it was sorely missed in that matter. But as far as like in the context of the show, I'm glad that Otto wasn't there because again, we got to see Team Green just being a whole ass fool. So I'm here for it because I tell you what, that meeting that takes place later in the episode, again, it just speaks to Otto not being there. I bet you if Otto was there, even though I know that was Allison's kind of time to have her prayers or whatnot, I bet you Otto would have found a way to not make sure that meeting happened. But no Otto, no problem. I love it. When is he coming back? I would assume next week. At least his presence will be felt next week, and I would imagine because, like I said, just putting the Team Black, Team Green aside, I think the presence of that actor really elevates a lot of the tension and the intrigue of the show. So I would imagine he wouldn't be gone too long. But speaking of gone too long, getting back into the discussion here, I had my issues last week with the idea that Rhaenyra sent Baela to King's Landing to do some reconnaissance and to look over, see what's going on. I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea, man. Like sending this girl out there by herself. She's not necessarily in the position to, go to war if need be, but neither here nor there. I wasn't a fan of that, but she Rhaenyra makes up for that. She's having a conversation with Renee. What is her name? Rhaenyra. I can't remember her name. Correct me in the comments of the young lady's name who's on the screen now, but she is Baela's sister. I believe her younger sister, if I'm not mistaken. But Rhaenyra tells her to send herself, dragon eggs, and her step siblings to a place of safety. I like that. I like that. I like that a lot. That Rhaenyra kind of made up for maybe the shortcomings that I felt was from last week of sitting Baela there by herself. But I like that she at least has the awareness of like there are people that are coming to assassinate me. There was a child who had their head beheaded. We need to make sure that we protect our kids by any means necessary. So very, very a fan of that idea, but I am very curious to know where they're going, if that is a place that we could fully believe that there won't be any ways of their location being shared with Team Green. So that's going to be interesting to see moving forward. I don't know if we're going to see those kids again I would imagine so. Because I'm sure they're going to age up by season 3, season 4, which I think is going to be the last season of the show. I'm pretty confident that we'll see them again, but I'm not confident or sure if we'll see them again for the duration of the season. I would hope so, because I like, as I mentioned in my breakdown, and we'll get to the scene, those kids, and I don't give any credit to Damon raising those particular kids that are the grandkids of Rhaenys and Corliss. But those kids are just so loyal, so smart, so well spoken, and just much better than Team Green, to say the least, as far as just the good head on the shoulders. They were raised well. But speaking of someone that wasn't necessarily, I want to say has a not doesn't have a good head on the shoulder, but they're definitely a hot head. That's Prince Damon, as he was called several times in this episode, but we all know he likes to be called Your Grace. He's in Harrenhal right now, which is this completely abandoned and not much to offer at this point. Just it's a haunted house, as we'll get to later, but he's there to pretty much set his path into motion, set this plan into motion to gather their resources, gather their alliances, and to have them make Harrenhal a place of refuge, or Harrenhal a place to congregate, to get their 40,000 men and their swords to plan for this war. Because even though it's a dump, it's a hole in a wall, it does have the square footage, and it does have the the capabilities of holding such a strong army. So he's trying to, again, Damon has his ways around him, but at the end of the day, he's doing things that's going to help Team Black out, even if he is a bit of a hothead, a bit of a wild card, or what have you. But that is what's being set in place at Harrenhal. And by the way, I love how easy it was to pretty much take it over. They're like, listen, Damon, we don't have time. We don't have the resources or the men to challenge you. We will easily give you Harrenhal, no questions asked. And I love the conversation being had between Damon and one of the Strongs, where he says, oh, aren't you a representative? Is it you're a relative of Laris and or Laris? And he says, yeah, he is in our blood. But as you would know, Damon, just because your blood doesn't mean you have your alliance to them, right? So I mean, they're pretty much fully aware that he had something to do with Strong's deaths last season. So I like that we can get straight to it, and they're very aware of the treachery within their own family. So I like that moment between two. But as we'll talk about later, there's a scene that takes place at Harrenhal that I, as a horror fan, brought me nothing but pure joy. And I hope that's just a taste of what we can maybe expect moving forward, is a little bit more of that. We got dragons, we got, we don't got witches in this show quite yet, but I'm sure they're out there. But I love when Game of Thrones and House of Dragon, in particular tonight's episode, when they get to those supernatural elements and how they play into it, because they handle it really well, and they did so in tonight's episode, which I'm really, really excited to talk about in tonight's breakdown. But we meet some new characters tonight. I might have, just because it's been 2 years or 2.5 years since we got season 2 or season 1 of House of Dragon, and I'm sure it was mentioned at some point, but I don't remember them detailing that Allison had a brother. For some reason, I'm sure it was mentioned, I don't remember it, but for some reason I thought she was the only child. But clearly she's not, as we meet her brother in this episode, who's a high tower, feel like he owns the joint as soon as he walks on there. And listen, I like him a little bit, just for the simple fact that when he saw Cole, he was like, very interesting that my dad, who served 3 kings, is now not serving the king. I wonder what that says about you, Cole, and how you got your position. So I like that he's calling Cole out and bringing up the fact that it's very suspicious how he got his position of power. As Vic says in the comments, she has a brother and another son. Yeah, brother. Yeah, and so besides him, is there another brother or a sister? I know she has her son that they mentioned last week. But like I said, I wasn't aware that she had other siblings besides the one that we see on the screen now. But neither here nor there. I like how he makes his presence felt, and he is very pompous, very cocky, very high tower ish. And again, I liked how he calls Cole out for his new position and how he came to be. Very much a fan of that. But he does make a decision later in this episode that kind of falls back on that. But as the tradition goes, whenever this individual is on screen, I just got to make sure that everyone at home knows how I feel about him and how I would describe him. So before we talk about this individual, play the video.
Soft. Overrated. Pretty boy. A bitch.
Yeah. Just making sure y'all know how I feel about him. When I'm talking about Sir Chrissy Cole, so he is, new haircut. Again, for my book readers, I don't know if that is like something that means something that he changes hair. I don't know if it's a matter of like, as a king's guard, it has to be slicked back, but as a king, a hand of the king, it could be more late. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it. Could have been a simple, which Game of Thrones is known for messing up and having like Starbucks cups in the shots and things of that nature, and people holding the boom mic and shots towards the back half of Game of Thrones, so they're not immune to making mistakes. But I don't think that his haircut is a mistake of like, oh, the actor just maybe he was offset for a couple weeks and forgot to change the consistency of how his hair looked in the scene before that they might have shot a month ago. But I do think the haircut means something. I think it's him kind of in a way. And again, who would have known that we were talking about hairstyles in Game of Thrones? But hey, everything has a purpose. But to me, the hair change could symbolize him being more of like, I'm taking a new position. I want to be respected. I want to have a new look to me. And maybe that's what that bowl, a haircut represents in the matter. I don't know. Again, I could be looking too much into it. Could mean nothing at all. It could simply just be a change of hair from a production standpoint. But either way, he's off to go start this, to gather their allies. And he tells Allison in front of, everyone, including her brother, like, hey, do you wish me well, my queen? And she gives him, her handkerchief or whatever, in a sense of like, come back safely. But we all know that there's another layer to that, with them being in a relationship or what have you. But I tell you what, man, as someone that is Team Black and is a huge fan of Rhaenyra, I don't like how our loyal, consul has talked to her thus far. I'm not a fan of it. There's a little bit of animosity on their side. There's a little bit of disrespect on their side. There is, or I should say, lack of respect. I don't like the way they're talking to our queen, especially in this episode. Now, granted, I can admit Rhaenyra has her as her father. She does not like to draw the sword. She does not like to shed unnecessary blood. So she has done a lot in her power to make sure that there is not going to be a war in her name. But her followers disagree. They're telling her, listen, we need to strike now. You are very vulnerable. Damon's off. Someone tried to assassinate you. We need to strike while the iron's hot. And Rhaenys speaks up for Rhaenyra, like, listen, y'all need to remember who you're serving first before you start spewing out, your suggestions and your tips and your advices. Need to show some respect. So I like that, but I don't like the idea that they have that sense of like not respecting her and thinking that she's not fit to be in a position to make the necessary moves to assure their name and their legacy continues in this war. So again, I like how the show does a great job of showing us there's disagreements within each side and how certain people don't agree with the person that's in power and how that affects things. I really like how the show gives us, I know the show tries hard, even though I think it's pretty hard not to go Team Black, but I like how the show at least tries to be like, Team Black's not all the way perfect. They have their flaws, not as many as Team Green, to put that out there. But either way, man, let me see what y'all are talking about again. We'll continue the conversation and the breakdown, but let me see what y'all are talking about before we get back to the best couple of this show. Yeah, he does. He does look stupid. Johnny said, will he ever You know what, Johnny? That's a great point. I don't know if the haircut makes him look a little bit older. It might. I'll have to compare and contrast the different haircuts, but maybe that is a sign of like him getting a little bit, I don't know, a little bit older, because he hasn't aged. Like I think we some at least I'll just speak for myself. I think sometimes I forget that the show is like 20 years from, when we first met the intro of the story to where we are now, and like he hasn't aged a day. And like I would imagine someone in his position would probably be super stressed out and have bags under their eyes, but he somehow has kept his good looks. So I don't know if this is the show kind of like make him look a little older. I don't know. Anyway, but good point. It's a dislike haircut, very modern and contemporary look. The actor looks modern in the show. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I hope there's a point, and it's not just like a simple like a wardrobe change or the hairstylist saying that he needs to. I don't know. I hope there's a point to the haircut besides it just being kind of random. But yeah. But anyway, getting back into the discussion here, this scene that we're going to talk about really, really just reminds me how much I love this couple, and the couple I'm referring to is Corliss and Rhaenys, man. Like even going back to Game of Thrones, I don't think there was one solid couple that we can rely on. But this couple here is just every time I see them on screen, I can feel the love, I can feel the respect, I can feel the trust in one another, man. Even though I know Corliss made his decision to go to war and almost got him killed, he went against what his wife said because he was just so hungry for the throne and to make sure he puts his legacy in a position to sit on the throne. But I love these scenes, man. And as they're talking about the future of their grandkids taking on the Driftmark and what have you. But as I said in the watch party, and I'll say it again here, man, it's gonna break my heart when one of these, if not both of them, end up dying. Because again, not having read the books, I would assume that there's going to be a lot of bloodshed on each side. And I know that when it comes to those moments, these two, it's going to break my heart, man. And if it does come to be that both of these characters do end up dying, I hope that they're together when it happens, and it's not one dies before the other, and they have to suffer and mourn the loss of the other person. But whenever that day happens, which I hope it's like season 4, episode 10, series finale. But in all truthfulness, I'm pretty confident that one of them will die sooner rather than later. I don't know if it's this season again, not having read the books, but I can just tell that the show is positioning, because it's a purpose that we didn't see them that much together in the second half of season 1. They were together before everything kind of went to shit, but we didn't we're getting more scenes of them. And in traditional sense of TV, whenever you get fan favorite characters together, and they share a lot of screen time together, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that one of, if not both of them, are in the line of potentially not making it out. So we'll see, man. But I just love them on screen together, and I love how much love they have, because it's not a world of love in Game of Thrones. So I really enjoy that we get those more tender moments between the two. But as we move, and let me know how y'all feel about that at home, whether you've read the books or not. Do you love seeing them on screen together, and do you, like me, feel as though that it's just setting us up for a future moment of sadness and moments of tears that might shed if one of those characters die? But we do see, Rhaenyra gives her kids off to go to do their duty and to give their dragons away, to set their alliances, again, setting the stage for them to make sure they have alliances. The two sisters say goodbye. Rhaenyra says goodbye to her children because she doesn't know if this is the last time she's going to see them, which again is very heartbreaking. But speaking of heartbreaking, before we move on, I'm going to grab my dog and get him situated. We're going to continue this conversation. But in the meanwhile, let me know what you think about this episode, setting the stage for next week. Let me know what you guys are thinking, thoughts and theories, and I will be right back. We are back. Shout out to my pet owners, dogs, cats, turtles, um, raccoons. Some people keep raccoons as pet. Shout out to the pet owners, because let me know, for those at home that have pets, whether it's hosting a live stream, talking to your boss via Zoom, or just simply, talking to a family member. Whenever you are doing one of those activities, is it me, or does your animal, and particularly pets, and particularly dogs, they just start to just wander around and sniff this, sniff that, nib at that, because I feel like they know that you're doing something and they're like bored and they want your attention. So what they do is they stare at you, as he's doing now. My dog Thor, shout out to Thor. You gotta love your pets, man. But he gets himself into some mess when I'm doing stuff like this. He's like, you know what? You want to be live? All right, I'll show you a live. I'm gonna be over here and eating these live wires while you're anyway, back to the discussion at hand. As we get back into our breakdown, we have a scene that was kind of cut short last week with the death of Helena's son and Aegon's son, but she, Allison expresses her moment of regret of what happened last week, and she feels bad for losing her grandson, but she also, I don't know, what she said, if it's appropriate, but she does make it clear that yes, she loved her grandson, but she is definitely more concerned about her daughter who she raised. And I don't know if this speaks to just like the lack of parenting that she had as years went by, but she feels bad for Helena, as a lot of us. Like I mentioned earlier, I do have a little bit of like, I haven't completely lost hope on Allison, and Helena's another character that I feel the same way about, and that I just feel bad for Helena. She's not bad. She has no ill will. She doesn't seeking blood. Even lost her son in last week's episode. She still, you know, still has, she's like, kids unfortunately die. I feel bad, but it's kind of part of life. As Allison tells her, well, yeah, it's still a moment to grieve, and it's a sad thing. But what I do like about this conversation, and by the way, I think this is one of the first scenes that Helena has like had a full speaking scene that isn't like getting into the minutia of potentially looking at foreseeing the future, right? I like that they're giving her more to do than just being the creepy girl with like this saying things under her breath. But I like how she tells her mom, I forgive you. um I forgive you for what. She didn't have to say what it is. We all know what happened. In that moment of this shows me a lot about Helena, man. I'm really enjoying that they're giving her more to do and having this moment again, putting the team black versus team green aside. It's a moment between daughter and mother, and a moment of regret and a moment of forgiveness. And I really like this scene a lot because it just speaks to the the one rare child that she gave birth to, that is someone that isn't as evil and deceitful and conniving as her siblings. So I like that scene. Let me know what you all thought about that, and if there's if there's the same amount of appreciation that I have for the character, that they're giving her more to do than what they've done in previous season one. But I tell you what, man, this guy here, I'm gonna bring him up in a second. He is he's shaking the tree, man. He is shaking that tree, and he always finds his way into the king's ear. And I repeat, with Otto not there, it's an easier path to the king than ever before. But we have this scene between the two, and obviously he set the stage for the conversation being had for um the Laris set the stage for him potentially lobbying himself to be the hand of the king, but that kind of failed and blew up in his face. And obviously, we know Sir Christy Cole got the position, but now he's like, okay, that plan didn't work the way I wanted to, but let me still nib away at the king, as he's kind of having the conversation about, the people of the town and in the streets are saying that the king, flies out to war in honor of his in his name and what have you. But there's also a sense of confusion and a sense of not fully bonding to the king and standing by his side. And I like how he's planting that seed of like there's some there's not a level of stability with someone in the position that Cole's in, that you need someone by your side that can set things, get the people back on your side, putting out good words about you, having little birds, having whispers. As I don't know what the official title would be, but I would imagine, you have the king, you have the queen, you have the hand of the king, and then you have whatever this manipulator position would be called, the king of whisperers, if you want to call it that. But we all know this is Littlefinger 2.0 in this show, and he has done some things that are beyond despicable, killing his own blood just to get in a better position. And he continues to do so. So it's just a matter of time before he is probably the hand of the king and replacing Cole. But I don't like him. But as a viewer of the show, I like characters that could muck up some things. Even if I am against every decision they make, I just like when characters are just so manipulative and distrustful and does all the things they do, because it just makes it interesting, right? But I can't wait till someone calls him out on his bluff. Like, obviously, we had what happened to Littlefinger. It took 8 seasons for Sansa to grow up and realize he was manipulating her all those years. But I hope it doesn't take that long for whether it's the king, whether it's the queen, or someone else that's going to take him out. I can't wait for that day. But until then, he's a character that mucks things up, and makes things very, very interesting. But neither here nor and the question at home, if you and it's only these two options. It's only these two terrible two options. But would you rather have Sir Christy Cole be your hand if you were the king or queen, or would you want Laris to be the hand of you as king or queen? Only two options. If it was me, I can't have Cole as my hand, especially knowing that obviously the king doesn't know that he's sleeping with his mom, but that's just another reason why you just can't trust him. He's just a distrustful individual. So, as crazy as it may sound, I think I would go with the other one. But let me know how y'all would vote on that. Who would you choose between the two to be the hand of, for you as the king or queen of Westeros? But we have, again, like I said, what I like about this show is the perspective of the common folk, and I might have missed the individual's name that they brought up here in this particular scene, and don't know if he or if this particular character, who right now, like I said, I don't know if they mentioned his name or not, but he claims that he's a Targaryen and that he's a half Targaryen, that the king, went out one night and had a bastard son. Again, I think this is just more or less just us just seeing the inside of like all the town folks, the lies and the game of telephone being told, or how people talk and how they maneuver through the streets and how they do this, that, and the other. People lie all the time in reality, right? Oh, I'm so-and-so's cousin. Yeah. That's my second cousin, my niece's nephew's boyfriend's brother. Yeah, we're related somewhere down the road. Anyway, he claims that he's a Targaryen and just boasting and blagging, and his friends are like, nah, the hair, he doesn't call it. I don't think that's you, Johnny. I don't think that's you, because you seemed to be someone of honor and dignity and not false claim in his name. And I think Hugh had a beard. and also he looked more like a Targaryen than this individual because he had like white hair. Um, so I don't think that's Hugh. But like I said, if someone in the comments can correct me or fill me in on what his name was, if he was even given a name, let me know. Let me know. But what we end up seeing is something that, I don't think a lot of people, including this false Targaryen, he might be telling truth. I doubt it. But I don't think him or anyone at this tavern anticipated to see the king bumping elbows with the common folks, because the king, as he says earlier that he's not going to go to war, and in his name, he's going to maybe think about it a couple of days, aka maybe not the best decision to go on a dragon and potentially die in the process. So in the meantime, let me just F around with my boys and have a night in the wild. I will not be showing screenshots just of what's seen in this particular scene. I'm going to try to find a good enough screenshot to talk about. Okay, this is good enough. But, they're making their way through the brothel. And I will say, I thought not a good thing or a bad thing, but I think we can all admit that TV has gotten less and less. The adultness of television has kind of been neutered, right or wrong, or however you feel about it. But I would say, HBO 10 years ago was much different than HBO is today, for better or for worse. Tonight's episode was throwback to the front nudity, to how I say I said in the watch party, the Hut girl made a cameo on tonight's episode. I did not anticipate some oral sex being shown on screen. That was not on the bingo card tonight. It kind of took me back, because it's been so long since I've seen such adult material on any streaming show, let alone HBO. But putting the adult nature of tonight's episode aside, there is something interesting going on here, which is seeing that Aegon is kind of embarrassing his brother in front of his homeboys, right? And in front of his I don't know what you call it, the woman of the night, his girlfriend, if you want to call it that. But he's embarrassed right now, right? But he kind of plays her and says, "Oh, anyone can see with her. I don't have feelings for her." But again, man, I really like how Eamon is not just a stone cold killer with no emotions, no relationships, no regrets. I like that they're showing us all these different layers. And again, not knowing what happens in the book, I don't know if this continues that path of us. And I don't know if this is a show decision or if it is in the books that you see all these different layers and dimensions of this character. But again, I like that they're showing this vulnerable side of him, and he's embarrassed right now, as his brother calls him out in front of everyone else, with his girlfriend, the lady of the night there. But it will be interesting moving forward to see if Aegon and Aemon and how their relationship is pursued moving forward. If there are still moments of his brother embarrassing him proving his brother wrong, him looking out for his brother earlier at that meeting. But I'm really intrigued to see what comes of their relationship moving forward. But as we move along throughout the episode, Rhaenyra eventually reads the letter that was sent from her a couple days or maybe a couple weeks ago after she lost her son. And that letter kind of ignited what we see at the end of this episode. Perfect segue. Speaking of ignited, this close to seeing Team Green taking an L that I think we all want. And that is Bela as Krusty Cole and his crew, his motley crew, are making their way to get their banners. I sometimes forget that he is a warrior. He is a knight. He is very trained in battle. That's probably the most compliments you ever hear from me to this guy on the screen now. But he is someone that is battle tested. He has the wherewithal to, recognize his environment, and then he notices the swiftness of the temperature and in the air, and he feels the presence of a dragon. I don't know who was closer. I think I don't know the answer. It was Bela closer to killing Allison's brother and Cole, or was Rhaenys closer to killing Team Black when she came from the the floor with her dragon? Who was closer to killing in this war? Rhaenys is pretty clear winner there. But man, Bayla, she was so damn close, y'all. She was so damn close to just ending. It wouldn't have ended the war. It might have, if anything, would have made would have escalated things further because the queen's brother would have died, but also the queen's um, secret lover, but also the hand the king would die. It would have definitely set up a path for war to come quicker. But man, Bayla, and it's not that she hesitated. It was just things happened quickly. They were able to get into the trees, into the forest quicker. Which, if it was me, I still would have been like, Jakartas, and just burnt the whole forest. But it just goes to show how close, how you can't just walk in the field, right? The war is here. You can't just lollygag and mess around. So, but shout out to Bayla. She didn't pull the trigger, but at least she had the wherewithal. She wasn't like hesitant. She wasn't like, should I? She was like, hold on, that cloak, that like she went into action. I like that about Bayla. I talked about it last week. I've even said it earlier in this episode how I don't know how battle tested she is. I don't know if she has the goal to make those tough decisions. She showed me tonight that if push comes to shove, she ready to Jakaris anyone that isn't Team Black. So I like that. I really hope and pray that we get more time with her than what we unfortunately didn't get with her mother, who we didn't get. She unfortunately died in season 1. But I like Bayla. I like her a lot, man. I like her and her dragon. I like how she isn't afraid to make things happen. Which, speaking of afraid, Allison's Allison's brother was afraid. I tell you that you see a little tear in his face there. He was afraid. I'm confident that he's never seen battle or drawn his sword to slay his enemies. But I like to see a lot. Like I said, it tells me two things: that Bayla is about that life, and it also tells me that this is not a time for either side to have their defenses down. You need to be aware of your surroundings at all points and all times. But can y'all do me a favor in the chat? Can y'all just put Bayla's in the chat for me? I think she's dope. I think she's dope. And again, I really do hope that we get more time with her, more so than we unfortunately didn't get with her mother. But shout out to Bayla. Shout out to Bayla. But before moving on, let me catch up to the chat again. 133 people watching across 3 different platforms: Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and of course on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the thumbs up. Continue to share your thoughts and commentary in the comments below. I'll try to get to them as often as I can. And those watching the replay, if you can do the same and consider subscribing. And if you're watching this on Facebook, I'm not on Facebook a lot, but I'm pretty sure you can hit a thumbs up and share as well. And then I think on X, you can do the same thing. You can hit the share button and like button if you're enjoying yourself. I don't want to force you to do something. If you hate what I got to say, if you're not enjoying yourself, hit the thumbs down. It's it helps either way. But either way, let me see what y'all are talking about in the comments here. Aegon Embarrassing, amen with excessive. Yeah. Yeah. 100%, Justin. Yeah, good point. It's good to have as many dragons as possible on your side. I love it. I love it. This and I want to give a shout out to everyone in the live chat because, truth be told, when hosting a live stream, it is hard to, I want to entertain you all, give you all my thoughts, but I want to interact with you all too. So I love that you all are able to conversate, have a conversation amongst yourselves. It's great. It's a great community, full of like-minded, awesome people. So I appreciate y'all. Even if I'm not able to fully read your comment or bring it up on screen, I appreciate y'all are keeping the chat lively and having some fun. I appreciate y'all, man. You guys are dope. You guys are dope. But yeah, love her. Yeah, she's great. She is that girl. And again, not being a book reader, I just really hope that we get more with her moving forward. I like this comment here. Bayla and Jace would be great for King and Queen of Westeros. Yeah, they would be a pretty powerful couple, considering where they come from and who they were raised by, and they have good heads on their shoulders. So yeah, that would be a very formidable couple, and it could could potentially even rival. And again, I think the show was leaning towards that kind of the scene that they had last week, but they would rival a Corliss and Rhaenys, if that were ever to come to fruition. But speaking of coming to fruition, I love her. I love her, man. But there comes a time where sometimes you got to make those tough decisions. And not saying that she's not capable of making those tough decisions, but she is just so adamant of not drawing unnecessary bloodshed and death. We're at the point now where Bela has given her intel on what she saw and how close the enemies are to them, but as well as gathering their allies. And it's time to strike, Rhaenyra. And as of right now, she's listening to everyone, what they have to say. And she still is hesitant. She's still telling them it's not time. I'm going to consider everything you guys have said, but I still think there is a will, there's a way to end this war before it even began. And I just hope after what we'll talk about next that she knows it's time for war. Pandora's box is no longer closed. You lost a kid, they lost a kid, and those gloves are not going to be taken off, man. It has to happen, unfortunately. But let's get into it, man. Let's talk about her coming up with the idea, which is she talks to. I'm pretty sure is the next scene here. Let me fast forward. No, hold on. Let me talk about the next scene here. As my dog's barking, let me get this dog from barking right quick. So we will be right back. I'll be right back, guys. We are back. We are back. My apologies. Like I said, my little man likes to make barking noises at nothing. At nothing. But speaking of noises and things that go bumping in the night, if you know one thing about me, if you've been following the channel for a while, my two favorite genres are science fiction and horror. Not that this is a good horror film. I wasn't a fan of Abigail. Laundry Day. Just had to throw on a shirt. Team Black. But I love horror. Game of Thrones did a really good job of building suspense and horror and thrilling moments with, the supernatural elements of the show, which is zombies, White Walkers, so on and so forth. House of Dragon hasn't tapped into that tapestry yet as far as supernatural and spooky horror vibes until tonight's episode. To set the scene, obviously Damon's in Harrenhal. He hates it there. It's like staying at the Bates Motel. This is straight out of a scene out of a Mike Flanagan Haunting on Hill House, Haunting on Bly Manor. When I tell you I love this scene, that's an understatement. Someone's banging. I thought it was the girl, which we'll talk about, which I don't know her name. I don't know if they reveal the name, but I thought it was a girl that he saw earlier in the episode who we'll talk about here in a second. Someone's banging on his door, like moving the door. He has a sword on it, and he's like, what in the hell is going on? I don't know what time of the day it is, but it's late at night, and no one should be banging on his door, especially if they know who he is. He's, Your Grace. So he goes and investigates, like literally straight out of a horror film. People, when they hear things, if it was me, all right, I'm going to my dragon. Rain, hail, or snow, I'm sleeping on my dragon at night. I don't need to know what's knocking on my door. I got a dragon. And I'm gonna be sleeping on my dragon tonight. Or sleeping under my dragon so I don't get rained on. Either way, Damon's Damon. He's tougher than I am. He goes, I want to say tougher. He's more curious than I am. He goes to investigate what's going on. And I mentioned it in my breakdowns of season 1. Love Emma. Love Olivia Cook. I thought the casting between young Rhaenyra and Allison was probably the most seamless casting I've ever seen on television. I do not, I don't think I'm speaking hyperbole. The handoff from young to older versions of them is flawless in my eyes. But with that being said, I love Emma. I love Olivia. I really enjoyed the younger actresses that played them. And I said to myself, I would love, if we can somehow, some way get, if not both of them, one in particular back. I thought Millie Alcock was amazing as Rhaenyra. Just the regalness, the presence she demanded. Her scenes were just amazing. And ladies and gentlemen, as I prepare the scene, Damon walks into this room. There's a fire in this room. And lo and behold, it is the one, it is the only Supergirl herself, Millie Alcock, making a brief cameo, maybe one of many, who knows? I don't know if this is gonna, how long he's gonna be in Harrenhal. Maybe he'll have another night with a little ghost here. Love the cameo. Think Millie is great. So excited for what's to come of her future as a DC fan, as she has been casted as Supergirl. The horror fan in me, I'm like, oh, that's Millie. I love her so much. She's so great, man. Like, she did such a great job in season 1. Man. What is she? What are you doing, Millie? Who is that behind you, Millie? That is the child's head. The child whose head was beheaded last week, and she's sewing the head. I love it, man. That is some, like I said, straight out of a Mike Flanagan, James Wan, Ari Aster, Robert Eggers horror movie. I loved it. So dark. And I'm here for it, man. Again, when I was doing the watch party, a lot of you all said Harrenhal is set to have to be haunted. I mean, we did lose 2 strong members, last season, so it is a place full of death. And I hope we visit that place again sometime this season, and maybe experience more apparitions or ghosts. I've had my, I'm good with seeing kids getting their necks sewed back on. We can maybe leave that for this episode, but I would love to explore more of the supernatural if there's more to be had. I don't know this young lady's name. I would hope that she's gonna return. I don't even know if she's alive or dead. I'll tell you that much, because when we saw her earlier in the episode, no one acknowledged her. She could be a ghost. I don't know. Again, I'm not a book reader. I know the actress. I can't think of her name. She's been in a lot of stuff. A very familiar face. I don't know if she's a witch. What was her name? Melisandre. Was that her name in season 1 or the Game of Thrones? I hope we get more of this, man. That was spooky. That was spooky, man. I would give the showrunners and creators their props, and that was a creepy ass scene, and I would love to see more of it moving forward. But anyway, as we wrap up the episode, Rhaenyra goes to talk to the White Worm. Is there any way that I can get into King's Landing? Can I get into the Red Keep without being seen? Can you make it happen? It's a lot easier if we just kill Allison. Can we do that? No, I want to try to end this war before it started. So the White Worm gives her a little intel. Well, Damon was able to go there, and there's a way under the town that can lead you to hear that and the other. As she was saying that, I'm like, is this her being deceitful, maybe gonna get Rhaenyra killed, or is this her being helpful? Well, so far it seems to be helpful. Now, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, we're gonna end the episode soon, and we're gonna lead to the conversation. We're not gonna actually see the conversation, but thank goodness they gave it to us, y'all. We actually got the conversation in hand. But even before then, I jokingly said how, we got a Mike Flanagan episode with a mixture of Mission Impossible. As we're seeing Rhaenyra go through the streets of King's Landing, and no one's noticing her because of the disguise. Again, Mission Impossible is waiting for the mask to come off. But she's making her way through the streets, and listen, man, suspenseful, thrilling. I was on the edge of my seat again. Watch the replay of the watch party. I was very much enthralled with this scene because I'm like, so much is at risk right now. So much. If someone just happens to recognize her, hey, who are you? What's your ID? Why are you walking down here? Blah, 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 blah. It just takes one person, and they could have taken her out, man. And then when Allison's going up the stairs, like, Allison, I thought, I'm like, wait till you get closer, maybe. And she didn't do that, obviously, but that was a very suspenseful moment. The lead up into Rhaenyra and Allison, which we haven't seen them in the same room since season one, and like the midway point of season one. It's been a very long time since these two, who, if you have followed the marketing and behind the scenes and interviews between the two, they are clearly good friends, or at least they're actors. Actors are known for acting, but I it feels genuine between the relationship between Emma and Olivia. But they get to share the screen together in tonight's episode. And behind the spooky scene, this was one of my favorites. As the conversation goes, as we know, Rhaenyra's trying to her best. Well, I will admit, Rhaenyra, for someone that's trying to stop a war, she did not hesitate to stand her ground and to say, oh, by the way, I'm trying to end this war, but let's just agree that my dad wanted me to be the queen. And, they're going back and forth. And let me tell you, man, I know there's some Team Green representatives out there, all due, respect your alliance. I don't know how you do it, but Allison looks at her in the face, talks about the story between Rhaenyra that was shared between her and her father, and tells her that he told her the story and that Aegon was meant to be the rightful king. I don't know how she does it, but she did it. She looked at this woman in her face after Rhaenyra has literally risked her life to come to talk to her, and she had the audacity to lie to her in her face. It could have ended here. The war could have ended here. But, if the war would have ended here, we don't have the rest of the show, right? But we were this close. I like how the show and how the story's been told so far, that it's these small moments that could have ended it all. The moment between Rhaenyra and Allison having the conversation. I don't know what it looks like if they would have come to some type of agreement. Like, does Rhaenyra expect Allison to say, yeah, you're right, you're the queen now, game over, or vice versa? I don't know and even Rhaenyra acknowledges, like, I didn't really think past a certain moment where this was going to go. But as a Rhaenyra fan, I was just so scared for her this whole time of getting captured or being seen and what have you. But Allison lets her know that it's too late. We're too far gone. We are too far gone. There's been too much, death at this point for both sides, and it's just the beginning. But what an interesting way to end this episode, to really just, again, to set the stage of the war to come, and that there was maybe a potential moment of peace between the families. But unfortunately, when egos and revenge and vengeance are what's sitting inside of you, I'm speaking to Team Green right now with Allison, and it's hard to not go to war. And the war is coming based on the trailer that we got for next week's episode, which is said to be the Battle of the Bastards level type of action. And we getting those dragons next week, which I'm excited for. So before we wrap up, again, my he's making a lot of cameos tonight. I'm going to get him situated. But before we give our theories and our scores, Do me a favor, put your score, whether you use letters or numbers. What would you give tonight's episode? And let me know. I'm going to read them off after we return from this quick break. We're back. We are back. All right, we're gonna wrap things up because he is getting restless. But let me read to the comments. Like I said, put your scores in the chat. Give me any predictions and final thoughts before we wrap it up. As we do, and as you put your scores in, this is my final thoughts of the episode. Not as good as episode 2, better than episode 1, in my humble opinion. I do like how, again, there was a moment in time that we could have prevented this war from happening, as we saw at the finale of this episode. But like Allison said, we're just too far gone. Pandora's box cannot be closed at this point. But I just love, as a team representative, as a team Black representative, that Rhaenyra tried, and I mean tried, literally a suicide mission. For her to stick her neck out there to literally come face to face with the queen is ballsy, and that just goes to show you how much she doesn't want to go to war. And I would think that Allison respect that, but she doesn't. Too much green in her blood. But I love that scene. Followed by the haunting on Hill House, the haunting on Harrenhal House, of Damon seeing the awesome unexpected cameo from Millie Alcock as she's sewing the head of the little boy. Fantastic scene, great scenery, great horror moment for my horror fans out there. And just, again, the continuation of the town folks and how this war is bled over to so many other families and individuals losing their lives for a war that they might not even necessarily have alliance to. But when they do have alliance, as we saw with the opening scene here with the Brackens and the Blackwoods, a lot of bloodshed, a lot of loss will happen moving forward. But a really solid episode. Like I said, I prefer 2 over 3. I prefer 3 over 1. So with that being said, I'm gonna give this episode, personally, my personal score is I'm gonna go with a 7.5 out of 10. Doesn't get that 8 for me, just because there were some slower moments in the episode. There were some just moments that I just felt like, I don't know, can we get to something a little bit more intriguing? Can we transition from this character to that character? There was no necessarily dumb moments or moments of like when I felt like last week, but there was just the flowing and the pacing just wasn't as on point that I think that we've seen before as a la last week. So I feel confident and feel pretty good with my 7.5. Still a good score, but not as good as last week. But the score could go up to 8 after I see next week's, because this is a setup stage. This is a setup episode. So what, again, not from my words, but from the creators of the show, they said that next week's episode will be Battle of the Bastards level of battles, war, epicness, and probably a lot of bodies. So I'm here for it, man. But like I said, I'm at the 7.5 out of 10, and very excited to see what's to come. So as I said up top, I'm gonna cut this up as a more slimmed down, trimmed down version of a review. So I'm gonna do a quick outro, so let y'all know that I'm gonna go back to the live stream. So with that being said, let me know what you all thought of the episode. Leave your scores in the comments below, and hopefully join us next week for our watch party and for the after show. Join us live. But with that being said, I'll catch you all on the next breakdown. So outro to the edited version that I'll do and probably release tomorrow. But to get back to my live people that's joining me tonight, let me see what y'all scores are, and if y'all guys have any predictions. Let me see. Let's see. Where did I leave off at? I'm so shocked that they set up Damon's epic fight with Aemon in the Harrenhal. Oh, is that, again? I'm not a. Is that what we got to look forward to? I'm here for it. The more Harrenhal, the better. I loved it. I love the cameo. It was so great. Ooh, it was creepy. That dog sewing the head. That's some That's some twisted stuff there. Who was the girl in the black hair? They said that Damon was going to die. That was a question I had. Like, I don't know if she's a ghost, if she's a strong. I am not sure, but she is okay. Who is that? Fill me in, Vic. Let me know. Oh, and right there. She's a healer of sorts, a nurse, a Heron Hall, and said to have some kind of green sea. Okay, interesting. So what you're telling me, Vic, is she's someone that we can expect to see moving forward. Okay, Vic. I appreciate the insight, my friend. I like it. I like it. I like it. Um, I've seen an actress in many, many things, and she has that aura. I like that actress. So I'm hopefully we can see more of her for sure. All right, so we got a 7 out of 10 from Vic. We got a B plus. We got a 7.5. Need more action at the beginning. We got an 8 from my man Justin. We got 8.5. Ingredient how green is the color of envy. Yes, yes. Great, great, great. Interesting how green is the color of envy. Yep, I agree. We got a 7.5. And I think that was the last ones I saw. Okay. I think we're all in agreement. 7.5, 8. I don't think anyone was at a 9 or a 10. If so, let us know in the comments on the replay. But that's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to wrap things up here. I really appreciate y'all again for those that tune in. I love the troopers that joined I love everyone, but I love the troopers that did the double feature tonight, which is the watch party, and then they come back for the after show. I love it. I appreciate y'all, man. And for those again that not able, could be with their family, with their friends at work. I understand. But for everyone that's watching this on the replay, I appreciate y'all again. Thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comments. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And things to look forward to the coming week. Again, happy July. It's not July yet, but tomorrow will be. So happy July to you all. This week, we'll have reviews for Presumed Innocence on Apple TV Plus. I'll be dropping that in a couple of days. We'll have my review for episode 6 of The Boys. We will be talking about some movies this week. There's Beverly Hills Cops 4. There's Maxine to look forward to. And there might be one more thing that I'm just not thinking of at the moment. But hit the bell notification. Keep your eye out for some videos this week. I will have them coming to you guys. And I look forward to July, man. It should be a fun month. With that being said, y'all are awesome. I appreciate y'all. Be safe. Have a great week. Have a great start of the week. And I will catch you all sooner rather than later. All right, y'all. Peace out.